physical media is just, you know what? Those were the days when you just had it in your collection. Hello, my name is Ash, and today I'm going to be doing a spooky physical media haul. So, mostly DVDs. I think there's one Blu-ray. So let's get into it. I've got approximately, I'm just going to give you an approximate number. It's about 20 or so, 20 plus. Maybe that'll find its way into the title. I am a millennial. Physical media is just, I'm finding myself drawn more and more to collecting, because despite there being numerous streaming services, of which we have most of the notable ones, things change hands and sometimes things aren't there, and sometimes I'm just like, you know what? Those were the days when you just had it in your collection. Kicking off with a classic. I had to start with this one this month, and that is Friday the 13th, because of course this year we are being blessed with a Friday the 13th in October. Isn't that wonderful? So I will probably do a rewatch. So we have watched this one. We've watched the second one as well. I need to ask Liam if he's at all interested in watching the rest of the franchise, because I'm kind of, itching to watch the rest. This is obviously the movie that kicked off the franchise in 1980. It's one of those where if you've not seen it, I can't really talk about it. But if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's good. It has Kevin Bacon in, if that's a selling point for you. They were warned, they were doomed, and on Friday the 13th, under the label, nothing will save them. Talking of franchises, I'm going to put all these in as like one mention, These are all going to be the wrong way around now, and that is just going to annoy me. Here we go. I don't even know which. Should I do it like that? I don't know, maybe it was better the other way. I don't know. Anyway, it's Child's Play. Good old Chucky. We have watched until number 3. We still have Bride to watch, and then I will obviously cut the rest. And of course there is the reboot and also the series. I've loved them. I will say my favourite is probably the second one so far. I mean, there's always a place for the original, of course. It's the origin story of Chucky. But I love the factory setting in the second one, and the kind of montage of the doll being put together and all that. I love that. So I think the first one was 1988, I want to say. So this runs from 1988 through to, was Bride 1998? It would have been. So yeah, looking forward to watching Bride. And I'm actually personally really looking forward to both Curse and Cult, because I believe stylistically they are very different from not only the franchise but also from each other. Liam is looking forward to Cult the most, but I heard that Curse has got like gothic kind of vibe. The only Blu-ray on here, and it's because it was a collector's edition and also a classic, Jaws. And this is a really cool, it's 100th anniversary collector's edition, not 100 years of the film, obviously. I was so confused then. I was like, wait a minute, 100th anniversary Universal Collector's Series edition. This cost me £5. Most of these are from CEX. Sometimes I get them from charity shops as well. It's just this really cool edition. It's got a book in it. So it talks about like the actors and the film, the director, obviously Steven Spielberg. It all started with a shark. A novel by Peter Benchley. I thought it was pretty cool. And it's got like pages about the different movie posters and all that. It will probably be a kind of display one as well. I've got another one here which is actually a display only. I'll explain why when we get to it. But maybe when I'm decorating in future for summer. Okay, I'm going to put this somewhere. So we're staying on the shark theme for a couple of DVDs. We have The Shallows, which is the one with Blake Lively in. I don't know why I have to open them every time I pick one up. I know they're fine. To cut a long story short, she plays a character who, after losing her mom, she goes on a surfing trip on her own and becomes stranded just like not very far really from the shore on a rock, being circled by a great white, I believe. Yeah, a great white shark. And it's about how she uses her knowledge as a former medical student, but how she uses her intellect to survive this situation and work out how she's going to get to shore. I don't love the ending of this one, but it's one of those kind of, I don't know if you call it cheesy, I just wasn't a fan of the ending of it, but you know, it's a creature feature shark movie. I suppose it was always gonna kind of end that way, but I still love it. She carries this film very, very well. I'm reluctant to put it on the same level as Castaway, but if you like that kind of soul survivor, stranded, one location type movie, you might enjoy this one if you've not seen it. Then we have The Meg, of course. The Meg 2 has recently come out. Unfortunately, I didn't get to the cinema to see it, but I'm sure it's going to be, if it isn't already, available to rent, so I'm sure I'll see it shortly. This is an absolute comfort movie for me. I absolutely love it. It's about a prehistoric shark, a megalodon, a prehistoric 75-foot shark. I mean, I've also watched ecologist reacts videos to this and Jaws. I just love sharks. I love sharks and dinosaurs. This is just loads of fun. Like, don't go into this thinking this is going to be a really serious movie. I'll say it is cheesy, but I think the cast is honestly great in this. Very diverse cast, and there's big epic moments in it, and I think it pays homage a lot to Jaws, which obviously was the OG shark movie. So yeah, love this one. Glad to have it in my collection. I've not seen this one in a very long time, but Liam actually mentioned this in a conversation and I can't remember why, and I was like, I'm gonna have to track down a copy of this, and that is Little Shop of Horrors, another one that's perfect for the season. It's about an exotic plant called Audrey 2, who is a carnivorous, mean green mother from outer space, and it's a musical. Speaking of not seeing things for a really long time, I saw this because it stood out a mile off to me because of the cover. I've not seen this since I was a child, and I have no idea what I'm going to think of it as an adult, but it's Mars Attacks. Look at that cover, and I really appreciate that the cardboard cover is actually different to the inside. And this is it Tim Burton? Yeah, Tim Burton direct. I have quite a few Tim Burton movies in my collection because I am a fan. Excited to add this one, and this was from 1996, I think it says here. Looking forward to giving that a rewatch. You know, all I can remember is it is about aliens. I think I was very young when I first saw this. So the next one is the display only one I talked about earlier, and it is 7. Now, we already have a copy of this, but I saw Sarah from Possessed by Horror haul this particular version, and I tracked it down on eBay. So it cost me like $8.99, something like that, but I really, really wanted it. It is a US version, so it's not playable in the UK. It's one of Liam and I's favourite movies. This is the edition. I couldn't not have it. I was like, I have to have this. It's obviously modelled to look like the journal or the journals in the movie. It's one of these open up ones, and just the detail and the design in it is just amazing. I had to have it. This is an incredibly famous movie. Most people have probably seen it by now, but it is, of course, David Fincher, starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, a psychological thriller about a serial killer who is killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. I've had a little bit of a mild obsession with the idea of the 7 deadly sins since I was young, as like a theme. I think I did a performance of Dr. Faustus maybe when I was at college. It says psychological thriller, but honestly there's some really horrific stuff in this. You know, the crime scenes and what crime scenes look like based on the sins. It's It's full of tension. It is very disturbing and such a good movie. This is a spooky DVD haul, and I do consider thrillers to be under the umbrella of spooky for me personally, and this is very much a thriller. It is so incredibly 90s. Is it 90s? Yes, it's 95. It's just incredible. I really recommend it if you want some 90s nostalgia, because this is just chock full of it. The Net. This stars Sandra Bullock. I only watched this relatively recently, actually. Liam was like, have you never seen it? I was like, I don't think so. And it's very my sort of thing, because I really, really like 90s, early 2000s, well, movies in general, but 90s and early 2000s, like crime thrillers. I have just a soft spot for those movies. I hadn't seen this one, and basically it's about a character who, she is a freelance computer analyst. So when I say 90s nostalgia, the tech in this, she tracks down computer viruses and all of that, so it very leans into the upcoming, millennium bug that would happen, in the years following this. She ends up having her entire identity stolen and wiped from existence, and it goes from there. I don't really want to say any more than that. The concept itself is actually really horrifying, because she has to figure out how to get her life back. And she's someone that knows about computers, and she's a computer analyst, hacker, whatever you want to call it. So imagine if you weren't her. It's very horrifying, very nostalgic, and I love Sandra Bullock. I would categorise these ones in kind of the gothic section, because of their content and also their vibes. The first one is From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a kind of famous, vampire movie. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen this. Two guys, played by George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino, they kidnap this guy and his two kids. They end up at this kind of roadside bar, which holds a very horrifying secret. I think a lot of people will have probably seen this one as well. I haven't seen it for a long time, looking forward to rewatching. I say gothic because, the vampire thing, gothic literature, isn't it? And talking of gothic literature, I have added The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen to my collection. I remember people honestly shitting all over this. What year is this from? 2003. I do feel like I watched it near enough around the time and I enjoyed it. Saying that, I would have been early to mid-teens at the time. This follows some quite famous characters. They're calling them superheroes in this. I feel like there's a vampire, there's the Invisible Man, there's Dorian Gray. I feel like there's loads of classic kind of gothic characters in this from what I remember. Kind of spooky in the fact that it's based on gothic characters, but it's kind of action fantasy. Something to kind of stick on and not worry too much. You can kind of have it on in the background. So really getting deep into that gothic vibe. I'm so excited to be adding The Others to my collection. It's one of my absolute all-time favourites of this kind of genre. It is only a 12, but I think the story's great, the atmosphere is fantastic. And I think it's really impactful, especially that first time you watch it. It had a similar impact on me, I think, as watching The Sixth Sense for the first time had. You can watch it thereafter for the vibes, but that first time it's very impactful. It's about a mother and two kids who live in this house. They live an isolated existence because the kids have some sort of condition where they can't open the curtains, and the mother discovers that there's something going on in the house, and it goes from there. I don't want to spoil it if you've not seen it. If you want aesthetic and atmosphere and you like gothic, I recently watched this and I have no idea why it took me so long. This is so up my street, it's unbelievable. And that is Crimson Peak, which I believe is Guillermo del Toro. This is so beautiful, this movie. It's hauntingly beautiful. I really like the plot. There's some disturbing things within the plot. Oh, it's just such a beautiful movie. It's one of those where you just have to experience it for yourself. It's about this woman who is enchanted by a mysterious stranger, and they get married, and he takes her away to his mansion in the middle of nowhere. It's gothic when something like that happens. When she's there she finds out that he lives with his sister, and also there is some weird things going on in the house, and there are lots of secrets. It has that very classic, so does the others actually, gothic trope of the past haunting the present. Very, very good. Stephen King has put a quote on the back here that says gorgeous and terrifying. I couldn't agree more. One I actually haven't watched yet, and that is the Autopsy of Jane Doe. I'd heard about this from a few other creators that I watch in various recommendations lists. It sounded really interesting. I thought Liam would enjoy this one, and from what I understand, it's about a family-owned morgue, and the father is the coroner, and his son is, I guess, an apprentice or something like that. There is an emergency case brought in, and she's a Jane Doe, and then it goes from there. This is single location as well. I think it all happens inside the morgue, and from what I hear, it's supposed to be very good and very effective. We're stepping into the early 2000s section of this. I mean, there might be a little bit of a break between some of them. Ghost Ship. I could not believe that I'd never seen this, and I absolutely loved it. It's exactly what you would expect from the title and the cover. There is a ship. It's about a haunted ship, basically. This group who are like a salvage team. I think they might even go around the world salvaging stuff like old ships for money. They get told about this ship, they climb aboard, get stuck on there, and it goes from there. I loved it. I really loved the ending as well. Yeah, I was really impressed with this one. It's just got those early 2000s vibes. Another early 2000s vibes, which is going to be a rewatch when I get round to it, and is one of the movies that scared me as a person who was much too young to be watching this, and that is The Ring. This is obviously the American remake. I've never actually seen the Japanese ones. I believe they're on Shudder though, so maybe I'll check those out as well. I just remember being very scared of this. It's a 15. I was definitely too young to be watching this. I believe I was staying at a friend's house. Their parents allowed us to rent it from the DVD store. Remember those? I was still kind of figuring out what spooky stuff I liked at that age. I got them to rent Legally Blonde so we could watch that after, as a palate cleanser. I mean, that's a classic also. This is an urban legend type thing where if you watch this VHS tape, nostalgic, you will die in 7 days. There's a whole mystery around that. And stars Naomi Watts, who is great. She's a great actress. Another rewatch of a film that terrified me when I was younger is 13 Ghosts. I will never get the image of the jackal out of my mind, even decades later. This is something to do with, an old house. Let me see. I think it's someone collects ghosts. From what I remember, there's this glass house. Someone's inherited it from their uncle, and it turns out he was collecting ghosts or something like that. Matthew Lillard's in it. What year is this? 2001. So Shannon Elizabeth, Matthew Lillard, classic that era actors. And there's 13 different ghosts. I'm guessing they get chased around a lot. Oh, and the house turns out to be a riddle. That's it. You have to solve it in order to get out. The house itself is like a puzzle box kind of thing. Taking an intermission from early 2000s to go into some adaptations. Stephen King ones. First being Carrie, most people know. This is the original, Sissy Spacek, because I've never felt like I wanted to watch the remake. I will say that. I've not heard great things. This from 1976 and is about Carrie White. She's a tortured misfit teenager who is experiencing abuse from her mother and also from horrible teenagers at her school. She develops telekinetic powers. And it goes from there, and there's a very, very famous scene where basically she decides that she's had enough of this shit. It's kind of a revenge tale. Very good. Sissy Spacek. Amazing. Classic. Not seen it in a while. A King adaptation I haven't seen, which is Children of the Corn. I believe there has been a remake or something. This is like a child cult. I'd heard of Children of the Corn, but I hadn't really, I didn't really know much about it. And then I read that it was a child cult and they sacrifice adults. I was like, that's a very, very strange and interesting concept for a horror. So, sign me up. Back to early 2000s we go. Late 90s, 1999, House on Haunted Hill, which is of course a remake. I've never actually seen the original. I would like to. This cover is iconic. I remember it from being a child, and I'd never seen it until very recently when I bought this DVD, and I loved it. Again, it's got those late 90s, early 2000s vibes. A lot of people, I think, consider this to be cheesy, but I think the horror's great. I love the story. I love anything that's like some sort of game or people trapped in a mansion. I'm probably going to watch anything that's got that concept at its core. Some people you'll obviously recognise from that era: Jeffrey Rush, Famke Janssen. Oh, what's her name again? Ali Larter from obviously Final Destination. Great one. Love it. Another one that I haven't seen, I have heard a lot about though, and that is My Bloody Valentine 3D. I found this in a charity shop. Jensen Ackles is in it? Wow, I didn't know that. We're currently watching Supernatural. We've been watching it since January, and yeah, we've been watching through the entire show. So I did not realise he was in this. I better tell Liam. He'll definitely want to watch it. This is set around Valentine's Day, so probably one I'll save until around then. There's a mining accident 10 years ago when this person woke from his coma on Valentine's Day, brutally murdered 22 people with a pickaxe before he killed himself. Now, after years of peace, there's a killer on the loose, again wearing a miner's mask and brandishing a pickaxe. So I don't know if this is like a sequel. I maybe have to check that out. This was from a charity shop, and I always open to check the discs are there, and it had still the original 3D glasses inside 2 pairs, which I thought was amazing, and it's advertising Saw 6 at the cinema, so I had to have it. And he was like, oh, you know what, I don't think they'll work. I don't care. The very fact that they're in there is what matters to me. There is one missing from here, and I could go and get it, but I'm just going to say I'll find a picture of it. It's called Creep. It's set in the underground or subway. I don't know much more than that, really. I've heard it recommended a few times. Liam, he recommended it, so we grabbed it, but I obviously forgot when I was collecting the most recently bought in our collection to grab it, but we've also got that one as well. Let me know if you've seen any of these, which were your favourites, which we'd be looking forward to if you've not heard of some of these and took them as recommendations. My battery's about to run out, so I'm going to leave it there. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!